I am back tonight. I am so excited. BJ Garrett, Christ-Centered Abortion Recovery and Education Director. And I am here tonight with my very good friend, Annie Hopkins. Annie, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Annie. I learned about BJ, or know BJ, from church. And I learned about the abortion care through church on a mission night, and I avoided BJ like the plague.
Yes, you did. I'll never forget standing at our missions table at Flint Baptist Church, and I watched you walk by, and we had talked on the phone previously. And
Yes.
each other a little bit, but like you would not even come near me. There was like a 10-foot, no social distancing required at that time, but you were
No.
away. So.
Yes.
Well, let's just dive right in. So, do you mind just sharing some about your abortion story with us and kind of got connected other than through the missions fair?
Absolutely. So, I had 2 abortions, and I did not believe that anybody in church would have ever done any of those things. And I had put people at church kind of on I guess, a pedestal, or that they wouldn't, that wouldn't happen in church. Even though I kind of grew up in church, that would not happen in church. I was the only one. And here it is, boldly in your face, that they are reaching out to women and men who have suffered from abortion, and they are talking about it out loud in church. And we will get to the rest of the story through all the things we're going to talk about.
Yeah, thank you so much. You know, I think that we get so caught up. I don't know how many women, myself included, we feel like we're the only ones sitting in church with the story of abortion. But what we know is that 1 in 3 of us have had an abortion, and that's even inside the church. And so we're not alone, but we feel like we are completely isolated with this trauma in our past, that I'm the only evil one in the world that has done this. And we know by statistics alone of abortions that are reported that there's literally millions of us suffering just like we did. So, how do you get to where you can tell your abortion story without having all the shame wrapped up in it?
That's a good question, and it's a struggle because, like you said, I'm the only one who did this. Nobody else did this, yet there's a massive industry surrounding abortion. And where Satan gets in your head, or where you get in your head and you're like, you are not worthy, or you believe the lie, or you killed an innocent child. And that Satan wants you to stay there. He wants you to own that. He wants you to waller in that. He wants you to think that you're right. Nobody else has done this. You are the only one. You are evil. You are vile. And there is no saving you. You just need to take this on as a mantle.
Yeah. And, you know, for those of us who have had more than one abortion, like, it doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter, but the number is almost irrelevant at some points. But for us that have chosen abortion more than once, then we're like super evil. Like, we're super forgivable. We have the super, capital A of abortion on us. And we have no hope is what Satan wants us to think.
Right.
So I relate to that so well.
Yes. And I think you get stuck there, or I think that's something that it then becomes, well, okay, I'm going to carry this and I'm going to own it. And I'm going to be a good Christian if I drag this baggage with me and, feel sorry for me, or, look what she's overcome. There's both of those issues that go on. So getting out of your head, but allowing God to speak those words that you are his daughter, you are his child, you are worthy to receive all the grace that he wants to give you. And it's overwhelming and it's overflowing. And I'm not sure if it says it in Ephesians, but he gives you the whole Spirit. Like, as soon as you are saved, he gives you everything, all right then and there. What dad does that? Right. What father says, hey, I want to give you all of this,
Yeah. So knowing that, and you know, as good Christian girls, we know that, we believe that. I was serving
Yes.
time ministry with nobody knowing my secret of multiple abortions. And I mean, like a handful of very, very close, very trusted friends knew, but that was it. And I mean, it was, you know, years into my marriage before my husband even knew. Like he didn't know. I had kept my secret very, very buried. But how is it that we struggle with this in the church so greatly? I mean, what was it that finally got you to acknowledge the grief and the pain and the wound left over from your abortion to where you were finally able to reach out and get help?
I think as much as it was so terrifying to see it in black and white at church and at a table, and there are women standing there, and there are women that you admire, and there are women that don't look like whatever the quote unquote typical person is that would have an abortion. Women dressed in suits, women dressed in jeans, women just from all gamuts, both sides. And they're in church, and they are godly women, and they're redeemed, and nothing other than God's grace is able to do what you see on their face, how they carry themselves, all of that. So I think being able to have a ministry like that is so extraordinarily important.
Yeah. So what is some advice that you've been given to help you deal with the abortions in your past?
That God is not that small.
That's good.
He's not. And
did I say that? Was that advice for me? No.
I'm sure it was.
I'm just kidding.
God, he's not that small. He's not. I mean, he can speak and the waves stop. You know, and you're watching all that torrential rain that happened today, and I'm like, you know, he spoke and it stopped.
That's good.
And I'm like, it's just his words to your heart. Yeah. So women speaking those things, and reading in the Bible where it says, you know, God speaks to you, and he does, and you cry out and he hears your prayers. So that.
Talk to me a little bit after your abortions. Well, first off, how far apart were your abortions? Kind of give me the timeline of the journey of when you chose abortion the first time and your life situation, and when you chose it again.
They were about 6 years apart.
And did you remind me, it's been a while since we've talked about your story. Did you have living children at that time as well?
I did. I was in, the first time I was in a pretty bad relationship and got pregnant, and I have 2 kids, and I need them not to be in this relationship with me. And so I ended that pregnancy. And then the second time I was in nursing school, and same thing, my picker was completely broken, and I chose every man that was not good for me, that was emotionally, mentally, spiritually just abusive. And that's my fault. You know, that's where I was, and that's where the second one happened.
So let me ask you this. How do you, because I hear all the time, you know, abortion prevents unwanted children. And you know, my story of feeling unwanted most of my life. But what I know now is that I was always wanted. I had members that wanted me, and an uncle that wanted to raise me. And that wasn't the story that I got, but I struggled my whole life with feeling unwanted. And in looking at the kind of the baggage that you were carrying when you chose abortion twice, it wasn't great situations for you to bring another child in the world.
No.
Yet we don't justify abortion for that. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Wow. Yeah.
Spring it on you.
It's okay. I kind of like that. Why I chose abortion when I had already had kids, or why did I just choose it?
I think not necessarily the why you chose it, but how, I mean, because like for me, there's like this fine line of not justifying that you had an abortion, because we know that abortion is And we have to own that, and through the healing process we own that. But what would you say to someone, I guess my question is, what would you say to someone that's going through nursing school, that's in a relationship, that has 2 kids, and should not be a parent right now, but finds herself pregnant? The season of life is terrible for her to have a child, but here she is pregnant and a single mom in a not healthy relationship. What would your advice for her be?
Not to do it. But more importantly, why not to? Because there's so much we can do. There's so many things that just to reach out, to not feel like you're alone, to not feel like that it's desperate. And yes, it is desperate, but as soon as you shine light on anything, help comes. Help always comes. So when you talk about it, or you say, I am in this place, and this place is, I can't make my bills, I can't pay for things, I want my kids to have a roof over their head. How in the world am I going to bring in another child? How am I going to do this? And help always comes. It always does. And I wish I would have believed it. I wish I would have believed in myself. I wish I would have reached out and had it. So if you're asking me, what would I have said to myself? Those are the things that I would have said. Yeah. How just reach out.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. I love that you are so courageous to share that, because that's a scary place to be. Because I remember I wasn't in a good situation.
No.
The reality is healthy, functioning, good relationship couples don't choose abortion. That's not the normal.
No.
And so abortion attacks the vulnerable.
Right.
That's who most of us were at the time of our abortion.
Right.
I've never met a woman that said, I wished I would have had an abortion, but I've met hundreds that have regretted the choice of abortion.
Yes.
Despite their circumstance. So give me let's tell our ladies that are listening tonight, and men, we know that abortion affects men the similar ways that it affects women. But talk to the women out there and share some of the things that you now know emotionally and spiritually, maybe even physically, how abortion affected you and kind of the way that you dealt with that until you went through abortion recovery.
I had no idea that there was that weight. I knew there was a weight, and you feel, even through all of the sexual abuse of my life, all of the everything else that happened, it was just a different heaviness. It was a broken heart and sadness. And I remember you telling me, and I did not believe you, and I thought you were nuts, when you said, if you'll just go through the care weekend, just go. And I'm like, oh, great. I got to tell my husband about this. And yeah. And getting the courage to tell him was rough and very empowering, because I finally trusted someone with my story, because I had not told anybody. Because I'm really good at keeping secrets. I know about being sexually abused. You don't tell a secret. And then getting through the care, you said something like, the women walk in and they're all heavy, and then they walk out and they're happy. And I'm like, you are liar, liar, pants on fire. There is no way this is going to be true. And part of that is that part where you want to hold on to that mantle of, I've had abortions and I should suffer. And God's grace is never good. And he can give it to everybody else, but he's not going to give it to me, because I am completely unclean and dirty. And there's no way that's happening. So I walk in and I cry easy, and I am bawling as I walk in. So I walk in and I think it was Joe. It might've been Joe or Audra. Anyway, God love them. And they're like, you are going to be okay. And I'm like, I'm about to hyperventilate, but okay. And sign my name, sign in. at the end, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is true. This baggage is gone. And it would be so very wrong of me to pick it back up. And it would be so easy for me to pick it back up. But God released me from this, and who am I to not have that gift? And who am I to send it back to him? I'm not.
I love that. I love our program because it is a physical transformation. When you physically let go of the weight and the bondage of your abortion experiences, it is so freeing. It really does change you. And I think, wasn't it Damon that was like, what did you do to my wife? She doesn't even look the same.
Yes.
I mean, like, I love that. And we've had our husbands do the same thing, because it physically changes your whole countenance when you are truly free from the bondage. And that's why Satan fights so much against this ministry, because he doesn't want us free. Even he does not have our soul. He knows that we're going to heaven, but he doesn't want us free to do the kingdom's work. And I look at you and just how your life has transformed since you were able to get the freedom from and the healing from your abortion. And it's just been such a joy to watch. And it's so exciting that I get to even from the sideline be a spectator of this amazing sport of abortion recovery. And I thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think. I'm looking at some of my questions that I have here. Talk to me about just that kind of what we're talking about now is about the power of forgiveness, and why do you think, I mean, you kind of hit on it also, is as post-abortive women, we feel like we like, I could tell you, Jesus forgives you. He forgives all of your sin, your pain. He loves you. There's nothing too big, too ugly, too gross that's been done to you or that you've done to yourself. He forgives you. But then my shame is like, that's a different story. Like, I can talk the talk, but embracing the truth to that personally is so hard. Why do you think that is, specifically with abortion?
So I think it's two-sided. From a church side, oh my gosh, that's a horrible sin. And then from a world side, why do you feel bad about it? It's okay. And that's a war in your head. And you're like, you know what, God, you are the lifter of my head. These people, whether one side or the other, you are the lifter of my head. You are the one that holds me. And so those are the things that I remind myself of. You know what, God, they can have their opinion, because who knows what they have gone through, and who knows if they had a child who had an abortion and it hits a nerve for them. Who knows where they're at? And it's not my place to judge them because they can't deal with it. But it's my place to go, you know what? I'm going to show you as much grace as God showed me. And sometimes that's me taking a step and a breath and going, okay, you're going to have to cover my mouth because God, you know me. And just please let your grace show through.
Yeah. And not everyone gets it. I mean, I would say that most of the time, I don't have like some weird percentage, I can make one up, but a large percentage of people, when they hear your story of abortion, they love you because they can embrace that. They understand brokenness. I think it was Sheila Walsh one time I heard her speak, and she said, a brokenness is universal, and we all can get that, even if abortion's not in our personal story. But for that one person that maybe doesn't get it, they don't understand how harsh their words cut, how deep their words cut.
Right.
When they don't get it. So not everyone's going to understand the heart of a post-abortive woman, because there's people out there that are willing to throw the daggers that we're throwing at ourselves. Like, we deserve this pain, we deserve to hurt, we deserve to grieve, we don't deserve the freedom that comes in Christ. But when we say that, and when others say that to the post-abortive woman for taking the life of their child, it's brutal. We get that. We never say abortion is okay at care. But God's love, God's blood, Jesus's blood covers all of our sin.
Right.
There
Right.
is no sin too ugly, too big, too gross for his blood to cure us from. And so, and that is why I love this ministry so much. It changed my life. I mean, I came to care as a client
Yes.
in full-time ministry with no one knowing my secret. And so, I mean, like I so relate to that. As we wrap up tonight, what, you got the last video like that had almost 700 views. So we're hoping that they go viral. We want to break the ugliness of abortion. We want to, what's that thing that they do in the pro-abortion communities is shout your abortion. We want to shout our abortions. We want to shout the truth of abortion.
Right.
Is
Wow.
one last closing kind of remark, wrap us up, take us home with the truth of abortion. One last little shout out that you want to share from your heart to the woman that is either facing an unplanned pregnancy or maybe has already chosen abortion. What is your cry out to her?
So when you asked me what I would have said to myself, is reach out. Just, hold somebody's hand. Put your hand out there. Find another way. Even if you don't keep that baby and you give it up for adoption and somebody else can love it, just please reach. Just take the time, call your friend, have somebody go with you. There's so many things on the internet, and you will save. And I know when you're a kid and you hear your parents in your head, they say to you, please don't do this because you're going to pay for it later. Same thing. Please don't do this. Because the check you have to write is rough.
Yeah. And most of us write it every day for decades before we get help. Very few women get help from their abortion hurts before decades and decades. There are people that have come 6 decades after they chose abortion and they had never told a soul. Maybe their mom took them when they were 15 or 16, sometimes in the country to abort out of the state lines often. And we carry that burden around so bottled up, so good for the kingdom. And it's just not necessary. It is absolutely not necessary. Jesus Christ wants us to be free.
Yes.
And I love that through care, through abortion recovery, we're able to do that. And if you are pregnant right now and you're scared to death, like I get that so much. Annie gets that. Our whole team gets that. But there are resources out there. You are not alone. There is real help. And call us. We can get you a free ultrasound. We have partnering ministries that we work with that we will walk the whole journey with you. We will make sure you have everything that you need for this baby should you choose to parent. I was a single mom. Annie was a single mom. Moms do make it through nursing school, even physician school or whatever it's called to be a doctor. You can like anything and still have a child. We have this idea in America that children are a burden and an inconvenience. And that's not what scripture says. And it is scary. I get that. I don't belittle the fear and the realities of your situation, but you are not alone. There is a host of people that will love you, that will walk the journey with you and make sure that you have everything that you need for your baby. And if you're not ready to be a parent, but you still want to give it life, we have lots of adoption resources that for all kinds of adoption plans. And, choose life, choose to gift your baby to someone who will love it and cherish it, and don't be wounded by abortion for the rest of your life. So again, we're done for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for letting me.
Please, if you are hurting from abortion, give us a call. All of our calls are in inquiries, get tongue-tied, are completely confidential. And just remember that no matter what's been done to you, no matter what you've done to yourself, there is hope and healing in Jesus Christ. It's BJ Garrett signing out one last time. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
See Annie.
You're welcome. Thank you.